Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Lore You Know. Hey, Sarah, how's it going?
Hey, it is awesome. It is Friday. I'm not going to sing the Friday song, mostly because I don't know it. And no
So
one
I
gives a
have,
shit anymore anyway, because no one knows what day of the week it is.
right? So I have to watch saying hey and your name because apparently my phone, which is sitting right here, thinks I'm saying hey, Siri.
Right. Mine is Hey Google, because, you know,
Right,
because, you know,
right.
it's like pick who you want to know everything. And, I'll just give it all to Microsoft because they have it all anyway. Anyway,
Fair
totally off
enough.
in the weeds.
So we're,
I used it for them. So Slitherin.
yeah,
Let's dive into this madness for Scarred
yay.
Lands. So we previous like starting to go around Gelspad
Yeah.
map. We started in Mithril. We went to the Plains of Lead. Now we're heading south. I have the map today. This is my big poster map that I've been alluding to. um, so I actually brought it in here. It's on like an easel. We're going down. So I'm going to point. Now you can't even see this, but I don't know if you've got the map there.
It's the
But
far.
we're going down through Vesh to the Morning Marshes. It's just south of all of the things we've talked about so far. And I can't talk about the Slytherin without talking about. Well, I can talk about the Slytherin without talking about the Vigilance, but it seems silly too. Because I've alluded to Vesh a lot, and obviously I've done a lot of research into Vigilance because, well, it's all in
Right,
the name of our
right.
book.
What? That makes no
So
sense.
yeah, so that makes sense that I've done a lot of stuff on Vigilance. And you can go read about it and pick up the book if you want to know more about the Vesh and Vigilance. But they are they're not the army of Vesh. They're the special forces of Vesh that guard and protect the borders of the country. So they only called in the country usually when there's like a crisis or something. They were founded before the war, but it was kind of a loose, not really organized thing, and it really got organized during the war. There's a ton of history I can go into that. I'm not going to do that today. But the upshot is that they've got various vigils throughout the region, all along the borders. So the ones in the north protect them from like ravaging orcs, and I guess these days from ravaging Vangal worshippers
Right.
and lion centaurs and whatever. They've got ones that guard the Quadrata corridor to get to Mithril, and they've got ones in Mullis Town, ones in Mithril working with the paladins. They've got ones along the mountain range, ride horses and stuff. There's a bunch that are in the Ganges helping the elves. There's a bunch in the Haggard Hills protecting it from things from the Blood Steppes and the other icky forests out in the west. You've got ones out in the ocean who guard the kind of the shores in this area from other threats that could invade Vesh or Vesh's allies. Today we're going to talk about Arsenath Delta, which is the ones who are in the Morning Marshes. They are a central piece in the first half of Vigilant, so if you want to know more about Arsenath Delta, read my book. But they actually have a fort right in the dab smack in the middle of the Morning Marshes. And why is this a problem for Vesh? Well, in the old lore, 3X, the Morning Marshes were inhabited by these race of creepy rat people, who were followers of Churn, who basically would go into southern Vesh, and there's really no natural border. It's like other borders around Vesh, you've got mountains and lakes and things. This border, it's like swampland, farmland. There's not really a lot of it's marshes that go into basically plainer farmlands. So you've got all these little farms and communities toward the southern border where like a lot of the breadbasket area of Vesh is, and the Ratfolk would just wander and do horrible things and kidnap people and steal their stuff and whatever. So there's the standing army has like forts and posts there within Vesh on the border, but then the vigilants are actually in the marshes themselves, protecting that southern border from incursions. But the thing about the vigil, all of them, is none of them are only one is actually in the country of Vesh. Of the other 10, 11 vigils, they're all on these borders, and they're literally out there seeing what's going on, making sure that their threats aren't building up, and call them spies. call them special forces, call them whatever you want, but they are all of the above, and they're super trained, and they're sort of the, I don't even want to say the CIA, because they're more like the combination of the CIA and the Marines and a bunch of other things in a fantasy universe where
Right.
they can do sending spells and teleport and fireballs. So they've got a fort in the middle of the marshes, and they're there to protect the southern border from the vigil, from the as a vigil from the Ratfolk, but also just to make sure the Ratfolk aren't like building their forces and in any kind of horrible ways. So why are the Ratfolk a threat? They're just people that look like rats, right? Well, initially in the old lore, all of the Ratfolk were Titan spawn, and in the truest sense, if you want to, you can argue, what is a Titan spawn? Is it a race created by Titans, in which case humans count? Is it a race that the Titans created to fight for them in the war, or to fight for them in, or just whatever? Is it a servitile race that the Titans made to obey their will and do their things for them? Or in the case of the Slitherin, is it a race? Is it a bunch of things that got exposed to Titan yuck
Right.
and evolved to sentience, which is the case with the majority of the Slitherin? Not necessarily all of them, but certainly the majority of them. Basically, whether they were rats that ate bits of contaminated stuff,
Right.
like, and Cadam, Mormo,
Right.
Rinrook, it's really easy to find Titan gore
Goop,
and
right.
viscera and goop on Scarn. So the idea that a rat would be like, I'm gonna nom on this thing. Oh, I just evolved.
Right.
And so that's like the explanation for a lot of them. Not necessarily all of them, because some of them, they're Lethina didn't really leave behind viscera, and so how did that work? And I don't know. It's not clear, and they kind of hand wave it. But it is the case that all 12 of the fallen Titans have a brood of rat folk that are associated with them, or whether created by them intentionally, unintentionally, or through some kind of just osmosis thing, or just because of, I don't know, consistency and like, well, I've got one, so you have to have one too. But every fallen Titan has a race of rat folk. Deneb is the only one that doesn't have a race of rat folk, but she didn't fall. So.
Right.
So I want to talk about them, and the one we're going to start with is the most prevalent. So when they made before we get into that, they're called Slitherin. All right, and this is controversial for obvious reasons, because isn't that a Harry Potter house?
But long before Harry Potter came along, we had.
No, actually. So Harry Potter, and I looked this up like for the 5th time, because I keep being like, no, Scarred Lands came first. No, it didn't. Harry Potter Book 1, Sorcerer's Philosopher's Stone. Get it right. The Philosopher's Stone came out in 94, and the first Scarred Lands book came out in 2000. So obviously Harry Potter came first. Now, I would argue the case that Harry Potter wasn't popular in the U.S. and well known until 2000. Remember, sometime after.
It is the Sorcerer's Stone. Sorry.
Well, it's the Sorcerer's Stone in the U.S. It's the Philosopher's Stone in the UK.
Oh, that's
so it was
right.
the Philosopher's Stone first. Yeah. So, I suspect they were the word was co-thought of. I'm not. I mean, I don't know for sure. It could have been like. And as much as I've contacted some of the original creators, I think I asked once, and to one of them say, where did the source of the Slitherin come from? And he said, I don't know, I didn't work on that bit. So, so I haven't talked to whoever actually came up with them. I can talk about the Spider Eye Goblin source, but not the Slitherin.
It is funny, because when you're designing a world, when you're coming up with stuff, like, you'll have these ideas, and you're just like, oh, that's really great, and you put it into your world, and then later down the road, you're like, that's where that came from.
Yeah. Oh, God. Yeah.
There is for my homebrew world, I have a race of reptilian people that I was just like, I had to have come up with these, right? Because one day I was just like, I want these in my game. Where did I come up with this? And it was years later. I was going through my comics, And I opened the page and I'm like, holy shit, that's my creature. When did this come out? Oh.
Yeah, no, totally. I had a moniker that I used for years in college, and it turned out it was from like a cartoon I had seen when I was 10.
Right.
You know, so I had no, and my brother was like, "That's based on that cartoon that was out in the '80s," and I was like, "Was it? Oh shit, it was." You know, so yeah, it's we don't know where we get stuff,
Yeah.
and was it because one of the early creators read or saw something Harry Potter-ish and got the name from that? I don't know.
Right.
Yes, Harry Potter came first. I wouldn't say it's an direct, obvious influence because it's not. There's no connection. They're rat people, and snake people have a different other name.
Right.
So it's like, and that's the one thing that people easily get confused is like, why are the Slytherin the rat people and the Asathi the snake people?
Right. I
And
think
not
it's because
the
there's
Slytherin
more
snake people.
Asathi in
Well,
there, you
yeah,
know what I mean?
Asathi's a cool name, and Asathi's a great name for snake people, but it's like, I know a lot of people think Slytherin, they must be the snake people,
Yeah,
and that's not
totally.
the case. They're rat people, so whatever. Anyway, origin of the name, not relevant. That's what it is spelled differently, if that's the case. It's, and I have a beef about this. So the Harry Potter is Slytherin,
Right.
Slytherin. In the 3X publication, it was for Scarred Lands, it was Slitherin, and I was like, hey, that's 2 vowels different. Cool, it's much differentiated for Harry Potter. And then in the new publication, for mysterious reasons, they changed the last vowel from an E to an I and made it
Right.
look more like the Harry Potter spelling. And I'm like, why did you do that? Why did you make it look more like the Harry Potter spelling and not less? So that's another of my mild complaints about 5th edition. So that's the origin of the name. So as much as I know, which isn't a whole lot. Origin of the concept. Again, this is speculation. They're a heck of a lot like the Warhammer 40k settings ratlings. If you read those, they at least the original evil version of the Slytherin, there's definitely a vibe that's like, this looks suspiciously familiar. So
if you've ever played Scarred Lands and you've played the video game Vermintide or Vermintide 2, they are the Slytherin.
Yeah.
The Slytherin are them.
but if you think about it, it's like is it Ratling? Maybe I don't have the right name. Anyway, it's similar to a Warhammer race.
Yeah.
Maybe not Warhammer 40k, Warhammer Fantasy. Anyway,
Warhammer
I don't know.
Fantasy is what,
Warhammer
at least
Fantasy,
Vermintide is fantasy.
Yeah. Oh, okay, so it's that thing. So anyway, very, very similar to other races. But I mean, Ratfolk are Ratfolk, and if you're gonna create a personified rat person, they're gonna be kind of similar.
Yeah.
And you know, there's a lot of stereotypes around what rats are like. And a lot of them are stereotypes. It's like, oh, rats carry disease. Well, no, rats don't carry disease. The fleas on them carry disease, and blah blah blah. So, and they're creepy and dirty, and actually, no, they're not really that dirty. And so there's a lot of stereotypes around rats, and of course, these carry into stereotypes around the Slytherin because it's fun to do that when you're creating a fantasy race, especially an anthropomorphic fantasy race. You base a lot of their personality around stereotypes around the critter you based it on.
Totally.
Yeah. Owls are wise. Well, actually, they're not. They're dumb as bricks, but... So, there you go. So, going back to the different Slytherin bits. So, the majority of, I'd say the largest populace concentrated rat folk are in the Morning Marshes, south of Vesh. And the majority of those are called the diseased, which, you know, go back to those stereotypes right there.
Right.
But this maps because the Titan Churn, the Titan of disease and pestilence and plague, was interred, i.e. buried alive, underneath the Morning Marshes by the gods. And he was put in like this magical shell and kind of, you know, tons and tons of dirt put upon him and all that stuff. So they're like, oh, he'll be fine in there. Right. Then buried underground. No, because
it's like the gods have never actually lived on a planet because they would have known that rats can get into freaking anything.
Well, and independent of even rats getting into anything, his essence, as much as that
Bleeds out,
shell,
right?
yeah, as much as that shell prevents him physically from getting out, his goo or
Right.
microbi, whatever you want to call his essence, his magic, his viruses or something, seeps out of this magical shell that he can't break out of, but its bits can, and even like his presence and even influence can. And it contaminated this region, and it between it and the freaking tsunami created by Kadam being hucked into the ocean,
Right.
has turned what was called the Flourishing Flats, because we love alliteration in the Scarred Lands,
Right.
into the Mourning Marshes. Well, it's like it was a beautiful, like, pleasant floodplain, and now it's like this horrible thing with
Twisted, right?
bloody rivers, yeah, and plants that want to eat you. So it's really Nightmare Land. And these rats in Nightmare Land, shortly after the war, nommed on, or during the war, whenever Churn was interred, nommed on bits of Churn essence and evolved into rats. And a lot of this lore comes from this book, Warrens of the Ratmen, which came out during the Scarred Lands heyday in the odds. And they just, and if this is considered truth, shrug on what is truth.
Right.
Yeah, they were recognized by these kind of sages who went in there and discovered them. And we did base the origin description of the Ratmen on what was in this book, not necessarily what was in the SLPG. The SLPG says they were created intentionally by Churn to fight for him during the war, not created after the war. So this is where kind of one of our disagreements lie. But I also made the case that, as I said, some of these broods, because I said every Titan has a brood, some of them doesn't make sense that it would be, Churn is
Right.
Viscera and all that, but there's no, like, how did Lethina and Gulben make races? No. So
Right.
maybe they did uplift rats, who knows? I shrug and go, it doesn't matter in
Yeah.
this sense.
Whatever works for your story.
Yeah,
Or,
whatever works for your story, yeah.
like, there could be the truth, and then there could be what people generally believe.
Yeah,
People generally believe that Churn raised these rats up, or created this race, or whatever. Whereas the truth might be they just nommed on him.
Yeah.
I like
But in
the
either
nommed
case,
part. Like, I think it is.
I like the nom part too because it's cooler and it's kind
Yeah.
of creepy. And
Totally.
Churn, if you read his other descriptions, isn't known for making anything. Like there's like plagues and diseases he's known for making, but he's not known for making servitor races. He's not
Right.
known for making any specific race. Most things that flock around him are like bugs and stuff. And but even them, he didn't really make them. So it doesn't make sense that he would have been like, but I'm going to make sentient rat folk. Like, you don't use servitor races. You're not like Gulthaga, who's like, hold my hammer, It's like, no, it doesn't map for Churn. So I think the nomming makes more sense. And so there we go. So the disease was like the very well-known one, and when you read the description of the disease in the old 3X books, and you read the description of Ratfolk as a playable race in the SLPG for 5th edition, it's very, very similar in terms of abilities. And read the SLPG for that. So what I've been doing over the last week at Jeremy's kind of urging is saying, okay, what would it look like if we take these 12 broods and 5x them?
Yeah.
So I'm putting together a doc that hopefully I'm going to put up on the Sourcing Vault in the next few weeks that allows for these 12 broods to be playable races.
Yeah.
Sort of sub races of the Slitherin.
Just to be clear, like, there is some 5th edition conversion out there. Like, the SLPG has a few of the races, the creature collection has a few of the races, but they're all set up as enemies, and so you can't you can't play like a good version of them or even a version of them at all. And so what you're doing is literally making it so players can enjoy this on their side rather than I have to go fight this, which is awesome.
Well, I mean, think about it. And then the way we're looking at it is this: so we have this concept of the redeemed.
Hmm.
So the idea, if you're playing any former Titan spawn or even former monster race, whether it's an orc or an Asathi or any of these, the horse folk, the Ironbred, they were based on the Sutak, which
Right.
were horse enemies. So when they took half a dozen or so of these monster races or weird things like walking suits of armor and made them into playable races
Yeah.
to honestly to differentiate. Not that Scarred Lands needed more differentiation, but but within the 5e context to just even grab more richness to say, I want to play this. 3X did have rules that allowed you to play some of these Slytherin birds as templates. Some of them were frankly too overpowered because but a lot of why they were overpowered because they had extra hit dice or extra abilities. So I'm trying my best to, I don't want to say nerf them because that's not, because I don't need to because everything's nerfed in 5th edition, frankly. It's like, I don't really need to nerf them because, and everything's nerfed, but everything's also escalated in Scarred Lands, because if you look at a template of a Slytherin or an Asathi or an Orc, they're a little bit beefier than your standard races. And if you look at the Elf template in Scarred Lands, it is definitely beefier than the Elf template in the OLG for 5th edition.
Right.
So I'm just like, I can do this, I think, without really having to nerf them very much. I did nerf them a little bit, particularly the overpowered crazy brutes, but because I think the idea of being turned into a cloud of lightning is a bit much for a first level character.
It's true.
but I think I'm kind of putting this together, and honestly, anybody who's like in this chat or in this call or is watching this video at a later date, and wants to check a look at this, I am totally willing to send a free copy of this to you before I push it on the vault, just to get feedback, because frankly, I don't know how well I've done at balancing this stuff, so it may be that, like, no, that's too crazy or too weird, or I'd never play that or whatever. So I'm gonna put that as like as much as this is quote a sales pitch for this product I haven't finished yet, this is also just sort of a beta fun thing. And
Yeah.
so if any of I mean, as far as I know, the only one who's actually watching this call is my wife, but anybody not my wife who wants to check this out, reach out to me or Jeremy, and I can get you a copy of this little doc before it's out. But forgetting the doc for a bit, let's talk about the different broods, because there's a dozen of these guys and they're crazy. So the diseases I want to start with, they are the SLPG description for Slytherin is pretty closely based on the disease if you look at it. And these are, I would argue, the most common brood. Certainly in the Morning Marshes they dominate, and that's pretty much where Slytherin dominate anyways, in the Morning Marshes. The concept of the redeemed shifts over. Now we have an actual redeemed Slytherin community called the Walled Warren, which is south of the Morning Marshes in the, and I have to say this slowly, Sorporatra swamp. Sorpor. I know what Sorpor is, but it's like this horrible word. And alliteration. Sorporatra swamp. In the middle of that swamp, kind of right between the border of the Morning Marshes and that swamp, is this city of redeemed Slytherin called the Walled Warren. And redeemed Slytherin fundamentally are just Slytherin who just, fingered up to the Titans that made them, or inadvertently or intentionally made them, and said, we don't want anything to do with you, and we're going to go on our own, and either we're going to not care about worshiping anything or worship gods or follow Deneb or whatever, and we're not intentionally trying to be at war with the victor races or divine races because we don't care enough.
Right.
and we're not, and while obviously some redeemed can certainly be like, I'm a bandit, they're not monsters anymore. They're and were they monsters to begin with, or are they just people who've been warped by? It gets fuzzy.
And I don't know if you know this, if there's even an answer out there for it, but like the redeemed and the Walled Warren don't have a banner like the other broods do. Is that because they're essentially coming from all the different broods and they don't have I mean, that's what makes sense to me. That's what I would run it as. But just curious on your take.
I completely think that that the Walled Warren, it's not a bunch of disease who created this place. It's a bunch of different broods. There's more than one brood in the Morning Marshes. I think pretty much all of the broods, if not quite all of the broods, but like say probably 8 of the 12 broods certainly can be found in the Morning Marshes. So and a lot of the broods just flocked there because that's where the heaviest population of the Slitherin were, and they're like, let's be with our people even though we're of a different origin. They're still Ratfolk, and they got that commonality to them. But so yeah, the Walled Warren is not, because I mean, if they have a religion at all, it's to the gods. It's not to any, because the Walled Warren, like to be in the Walled Warren, to live there, it's not exclusively Slytherin, even though it's like majority population Slytherin. But to be there, like it's just like you're not going to worship a Dighton unless it's Denif. You're not. It's just like our rule here. You can still follow some of the ways of your brood, but if you're diseased, you're not spreading diseases amongst our people. Right. If you're a Stormbringer, you're not making lightning storms in the middle of our market. Right. These are not things you will do while you are here to be a citizen of the Walled Warren. It's like this is our kind of thing. And if you want to read more about the Walled Warren, there's a great short story where called something in the Walled Warren.
I just had it open this morning. Let me see if I can find it while we're talking.
It's a little short story adventure where Vladwin, our hero of all things early Scarred Lands novels, the guy who brought back That Which Abides, the god of the elves. Further adventures of Vladwin, he goes to the Walled Warren and has a little mini adventure. And so it's a cute little short story. Something in the title. Something in the Walled Warren. You can find it on Slitherin, not Slitherin. You can find it on Drive-Thru
Fiction?
RPG, possibly in Drive-Thru Fiction, yeah. Under the and if it's not free, it's really freaking cheap. I remember that much because it's just a little short story. It's not like one of the big novels or anything. And it's PDF only. So, and it's called
Death in the Walled Warren.
Death in the Walled Warren. That's it. Yeah, it's cute. So I recommend it. Pretty short. Certainly shorter than Vigilant. It's a short story. Yeah,
you can also get it on Amazon. Good to know.
Oh yeah, hopefully for cheaper than Vigilant, which is only like $3 on Amazon. Vigilant, $3 on Amazon.
It is 99 cents.
99 cents. So you get a third of the price of a book that's much smaller than a third of the size. Word for word, our book is a better deal. But it's a good read, and it's a good introduction to a redeemed location and kind of that feel for what is it like to be there, and what is it like for Vladwin to be like, ew, Titan spawn. Oh wait, maybe they're not monsters, and just him kind of coping with like, okay. But he didn't really deal with the Slytherin much in his stories anyway, so he didn't really know a lot about them. So, and that's like, why is it the Walled Warren? They put walls around a warren. No, but seriously, most of these Slytherin broods, particularly the ones who live in the Morning Marshes, live underground, because why would you want to live on the surface of this gross swamp or marshland? So they have like these underground tunnels and things. And so this is kind of a community of that, but it's both underground and on the surface because they build buildings and they literally put walls around it to protect them from the other monsters mucking about in this region,
of
because
which
there
are a lot that are nasty.
Oh my god! I mean, we there's this point in Vigilant pretty early in the book where EK, for personal reasons, he wants to go and join Arsenoth Delta. I'm not gonna lie, this is pretty early in the book that this comes into play, and he's all interested in what's going on there. He's training for it, and he's reading about it, and he's like, oh, first he's like, there's more than one brood of Slytherin? Wow. Right. And then he's like, what else are the horrors of the Morning Marshes? And there's this list of monsters. It's like as long as his arm, and he's like, I'm fucked.
Why did I come here?
I'm gonna fight what?
Right?
And it's like, oh, there's frog monsters and hags and these weird flying things and spider creatures, giant crocodiles, and just horror upon horror. And
Right.
if you could picture it in a swamp, add that, make it 4 times larger, and 10 times the amount, and that's what's there. It's a pretty horrible place.
Yeah.
So
Not a good vacation home.
And these aren't things allied with the Slytherin. Slytherin may be allied with other broods,
Yeah.
but they're certainly not allied with the frog people or the spider people or anything like that. So, and I'll say frog people; those are not a playable race.
To be fair, I did do a conversion of them that you can get on Solution Vault. You kind of have to do the Dritz thing where you're like, I am coming from an evil race. There isn't like a group of good people, and
you
so
converted
therefore,
the Reavers.
Right?
You converted
I did.
What are they called? The
Slime Reavers.
The Slime Reavers. Yeah.
I did.
Okay, you gotta finish this. You can't get into a fight with some Slime Reavers,
right. Or you can just play an evil campaign too. So
True. You can play an evil campaign. You can totally play an evil campaign. So we got Slime Reavers. You've got Mire Dwellers, which are these flying, jittery, creepy things that sound like maracas as they're flying through the air. Or no, they're quiet when they fly through the air. They sound like maracas when they land, and it's all good. And like other just horrible things. Anyway, so Morning Marsh is super dangerous. Slytherin not the only threat.
Right.
So going back to where I was, the disease. I want to finish up the disease before I move on. So when I made up the disease, they pretty much look identical to what's in the SLPG because it's clearly the SLPG is kind of based on them when I looked at the 3X description. The only difference I'm doing is their disease ability.
Right. And they're not covered in pustules and boils and nastiness.
Yeah.
They're
I mean, they look
actually.
horrible. I mean, honestly, if we were doing, no, they're not. But because they aren't diseased, despite the fact that they're called the diseased, because they're disease carriers. And there actually is a description of them. They're one of the 4 broods that is described at the end of the SLPG as in the monster section. So I kind of just stole that and tweaked it a little bit. And their thing is that they're yucky, but they're not gross. There are other gross broods. This is not one. But because they're disease carriers, they will expose themselves. Well, the Titan spawn evil version will expose themselves to a dozen diseases and not have any symptoms, not have any problems with them, be perfectly healthy amongst themselves. But as soon as they go near any other race, they will give those diseases. It's kind of like asymptomatic people with COVID-19 who walk in and cough on you, and suddenly you're sick and they're fine, and
therefore you should
in
be
the
wearing
ICU.
your masks.
So wear your mask because like a huge percentage of people with COVID are asymptomatic, and so every disease Slytherin is effectively asymptomatic. Not just saying they've all got something or carrying something at all times, but certainly the rabid churn believers are, because their whole shtick is, let's take out everything, particularly humans who were dicks to us, and have them all die horribly. And there's a bunch of them like do these just horrific experiments. Like there's a whole thing in Warren's the Rabbit, the disease is like the primary race talked about in here. And they've got like they kidnap people and like experiment on them and give them all sorts of illnesses to see like and make illnesses more stronger and use them. It's really horrible. Basically, it's just truly horrible. It's like, yeah, these are monsters. These are pretty monstrous creatures, and not pleasant. And their whole thing is for the glory of churn and just all levels of horrible.
Yeah.
And it's unpleasant. So yeah, that's their shtick. And they walk around in like hoods and kind of like, even though they're not covered in boils or whatever, they're still there's a vibe about them that's just wrong. At least that's how they were described. Okay, I'm gonna move on to another brood.
Okay.
And now I'm gonna go alphabetical, which This means I'm going to skip all around the planet, but that's how I have them listed. It's alphabetically. So I'm going to that's why I have the map. So alphabetical, next is the Black Pelts. These are the brood of Titan and Mesos, or Mesos?
Sure.
The sire of sorcery. So my assumption here is when at the beginning of the war, the gods pounded on Mesos and killed him, and he basically blew up and made magic happen all over the planet, and suddenly a whole bunch of sorcerers were born. And it maps that the Black Pelts would be a bunch of kind of black rats, a la, like common, kind of black rat you see, that got exposed to this magic and evolved into sentient Ratfolk who can do magic. The Black Pelts, as described, are basically sorcerers. I mean, fundamentally.
Right.
They all have access to sorcerer's magic and can basically do that. So my 5e variant of them, I was like, you get a cantrip. You got a cantrip, you got a +2 charisma. You probably want to play a sorcerer. You don't have to,
right.
but man, it's going to be helpful. So, yeah, and so I adjusted it there. And then they also have this couple of really interesting abilities described in 3X. I kind of nerfed a little bit and threw in the 5th edition version. So took away a lot of the other kind of, no, you're not friends with dire rats, and no, you don't have this kind of escape ability and all that other. I took all those things away just for balance, and gave them these 2 magical abilities instead of those. So because they're described in the 3X books, and they are not. I think they're considered playable in 3X, but with a level adjustment.
Right.
So, and because they still had all, and it was just like, if I just take all those abilities out,
right.
And put these in,
and we've talked about that in previous episodes, but essentially they tried to make it so a creature's abilities was translated into a level, and sometimes it worked, and sometimes it didn't. But really, as level progression for classes went on, they often just didn't measure up. So if you haven't watched the previous episodes, that's what that's about.
Talk about that. So in lieu of that, because I certainly don't want to deal with 5th edition level adjustments.
Yeah.
That would be a nightmare. I'll just take some abilities away and replace them with some other abilities. So no, if you're playing a Black Pelt, you don't get the escape bonus or the make friends with rats bonus or the whatever else I took away. I think I took the disease resistance and a couple other ones away. But replace them with some cool shit if you're a sorcerer. So you get, as I said, you get a cantrip, you get an extra sorcery point. You can cast Counterspell once per long rest, because that was as described in. It wasn't Counterspell, but it was Counterspell interprets it. And then you get this weird ability that I've renamed because the name was confusing. That I just called Magic Deflection because it's honestly more clear what it means. They called it magic stealing thing, and it was like, I steal your spells and cast it back at you, and I'm like, how about you just bounce it back?
Right.
So, and simplify this. 5th edition rules, come on, guys. So the idea is if somebody casts an arcane spell at you, and I will say this argument, 5th edition doesn't really differentiate spell types.
Right.
Arcane versus divine. Scarred Lands has differentiated arcane versus divine. I think that's a piece of Scarred Lands is important, because of how people get magic.
Yeah.
You pray to a god, you get magic, that's divine. You do something else to get magic, that's arcane. So I am stipulating that because of the way this works, this would only work for an arcane spell. So basically, in the description, I just say as cast by a bard, sorcerer, wizard, or warlock. So, or a class that uses a bard, sorcerer, wizard, or warlock spell. So
arcane trickster, Eldritch Knights, all of them.
Eldritch Knight, exactly like that. So it's that's a wizard spell. So one of those spells cast out of Black Pelt, they can basically, if they make their save, so it's a spell that has to be targeted to them with a saving throw. So this does not apply to Magic Missile, which doesn't have a save. This doesn't apply to Fireball, which doesn't have a target. So this would apply to, say, Charm Person, for example. So targeted at you to save. You make the save, and then you can immediately bounce it right back at the person who cast it on you. and they have to then make the same save based on their own saving throw.
So like all these power gamers that are just like, I have the highest saving throw when it comes back on.
Yeah,
like,
and then basically they're charmed by you instead, or you become the new, effectively the caster, but based on their stuff, not yours. So it basically it's like creating a balancing wall. They can only do once per long rest, so this is not truly broken. In the old versions, like they could just do this whenever they want. I was like, no, let's go once per long rest. Yeah, and I'm willing to take feedback if people are like, how about once per short rest or long? Let's I haven't play tested this yet, so I'm not sure how powerful it'd be, but I would definitely say at first level, I'm giving you one counter spell and this. It's pretty OP. First level.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
So, but you don't get, I make friends with dire rats, so is that a balance? So these are terrifying sorcerers, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Why would you not play a Black Belt Slytherin? So, and I also, what else did I do? It's pretty much what I did. And just made them like kind of awesome sorcerers. So, and Black Pelt, as I said, Rainbow Mesos, they're found. What's unique about them? It's interesting beyond everything I just described, which is also interesting. They're the only brood in the original lore, at least. They're the only brood who have really a intensely strong purpose behind them. It kind of runs counter to the purpose of all the other broods. So those broods who care about their progenitors are like, we want to bring them back or free them or whatever. So like the broods for Mormo are like, we need to find all the bits of Mormo and put them together and bring Mormo back. And the broods for the disease, for Churn, are like, we need to find where he's buried and dig him up. The Black Pelts, while they're like, yes, bring Mesos back, sounds great, they actually have an additional intent, which is let's try to get all the broods working together in unity to fight against the divine races or the divine worshippers and all of that. Let's bring back the Titans and as a unity, because we're stronger together than we are apart. And a lot of the other broods are like, you're nuts. We will never get along. You're crazy. And some of the broods are like antithesis, like no, never. We hate you. Screw off. So this creates an interesting conflict, I think, with the Black Pelts between a lot of the other broods, where they're just like, yes, let's work together.
Right.
We're the cheerleaders of the Slytherin. And they're like, no. So I think that's kind of interesting about them. And I can just totally picture like a Black Pelt evangelist who's not like, let's bring back Mesos, but who goes into the Walled Warren and he's like, let's all work together.
Right.
This is a great place for all the broods to get all the broods working together in the Walled Warren, and like has the underlying motive of bringing back the Titans, but it won't say it,
Yeah.
Because I could totally picture that. So that would be like a neat thing to have in your campaign, or whether you're going to play it or whether you're going to have an NPC use like that.
Does it ever say in the lore who like originally started the Walled Warren? Because it wouldn't surprise me.
It does.
Does it? Is it Yekel? Is that his name? Yakel?
Yakel is it Yakel? We're like, who the fuck is Yakel? Yeah, I did all my research on the old lore, and I didn't read the Walled Warren. I said literally opening the book because it's right here. Well, Gaspon Gazetche? City-states. Free nations. No, I want city-states. Yeah, and the thing about it is, because this book's descriptions are very light, there's not a lot of Walled Warren here. I literally had the bookmark on this page for a reason.
Right.
And I kept going past it because the bookmark was covering the words Walled Warren. No, it doesn't mention Yakel at all.
Does it say
so
who?
Tell us who Yakel is, because I can't remember.
Oh, man, I think I closed the PDF. Sorry.
That's fine.
He is from the 3rd edition Warren of the Ratmen's book.
Okay. Oh, all right. Oh, yeah. He's one of the. Anyway. It says it's who the ruler is. It says who the ruler is.
Gotcha.
Epis Strategos Frenlock.
Does it say what brood he's from?
No, it does not. He's ruled over the world worn for 20 years. Under his rule, many of the Titan-worshipping Slytherin have been driven from the Sorporatra swamps north into the Morning Marshes, or even further afield. So, expanding the city, and thriving city. He's considered true neutral. And one of the things that gets me about this, which is like antithesis to everything, is a number of engineers from Hadrad and Vesh have visited the city to learn from Slytherin master builders, escorted by the Vigils who are beginning to learn how to tell redeemed Slytherin apart from a hostile Slytherin pack.
Huh. Interesting.
Well, spoilers
right.
for Vigilant. We resolve this in the book. Because the book takes place in AV 148, 2 years before when you're supposed to be. And one of the themes of the book is the idea of the Vigilants trying to rationalize the enemy they've been fighting for like 100 years, the Slytherin, who are like horrible and they kidnap people and subject them to diseases and all sorts of horrible things, to these allies who are trying to build a community who are not horrible and evil, who are actually will help them fight the kidnapping evil experimenters. And how do we work with them, and how do we recognize them as people and not as monsters? And that's like in that like dichotomy of the Vigilants having to shift their viewpoint. And I've joked before about how Vesh, who's the most egalitarian nation in Gauspad, are also a bunch of racists. And this is like a piece of that, and I love that idea of these egalitarian democracy and all of this stuff, who are like, yes, equal all these other things, except unless you're an orc, but who are now over the last 5 years or so are starting to have to face the fact that they're a bunch of racists, and being like, maybe we shouldn't be like that, and actually starting to change their own inner culture by saying, okay, we'll allow orcs to be vigilants, and maybe by AV 150, 151, they'll start allowing Slytherin to be vigilants, and really stop being racist dicks and actually, welcoming and accepting that like humans can be monsters too.
Right.
And they're like, well, rat people eat people. Well, you think there's no human cannibals on Scarn? Because I guarantee there are. like, no, it doesn't mean your race doesn't mean you're good or bad.
Right.
Your race in Scarn, it's like, no, you're just how far removed are you from your Titan progenitors? Really, is all the differences. And you look at the divine, truly divine races, like the Manticora, and you're like, yeah, but they were made by Vangal,
It's
are
true.
they good or bad? It's like, yeah. So, in any case, speaking of cannibals, I'm going to move on to the next brood, which are the Brown Gorgers. That was a good segue that was unintentional. The Brown Gorgers were created by the Titan Gorak, the Titan of Gluttony, the big bulbous Titan who had his teeth ripped out by Deneb. It's interesting because Gorak was entombed. Well, it's not clear where he was entombed. There's rumors that he was entombed in the Glutinous Caves because Gluttonous Caves. Glutinous Caves would be different.
Gluttonous, yeah. Gluten is like it's so stuffed with bread and.
Yeah, no, gluttonous caves. Love that idea though. I want to say cave stuffed with bread. Okay, no, bread and pasta. No, the gluttonous caves. So you'd think that just feels like where Gorak should be, but there's no clear evidence one way or another that's actually what he is. But a lot of it, I think it's because when Deneb ripped his teeth out and kind of hucked them all over the place and created the perforated plains and fangs fall and basically teeth fell. And the devouring reef also created from his teeth. So there's like teeth everywhere. So it is highly likely that the Brown Gorgers were the result of them nomming on teeth. But other theory, Brown Gorgers are mostly found in the blood steppes. No teeth fell in the blood steppes. so what the heck is this about? But also a lot of Gorak worshippers in the Blood Steppes. So my thought is this: maybe this is one of the Slytherin broods that was actually made intentionally by Titan, not because they nommed on his teeth or other bits, but because he was like, I'm gonna take some rats and I'm gonna make them my servants, because it's convenient. And they actually may be one of the older Slytherin broods, not the
Right.
diseased. um, and I think this maps. I mean, and this is again theory of mine, but because they're mostly found in the Blood Steppes, not where the teeth are, and it just kind of fits. And a lot of his other creations are in the region of the Blood Steppes. So maybe they went there because they knew other worshippers of Gorak were there.
Could be.
So that could be it as well. But because it's the Vengorak, we talked about last week, and some of the other things. But there's also a lot of Gorak worshippers in the Plains of Leeds. So it's like, where I don't know, or maybe just the Blood Steppes is a convenient, horrible place to be. Like, no one wants to live there, so a bunch of Slytherin are like, we're gonna live there. And I don't know, but they are found in there more than pretty much anywhere else. They're also found in the Morning Marshes again, but it's clear they weren't origin there. Clearly traveled there. So I don't know, but maybe that's the case. So they're kind of thing, and I didn't. They're not like the Black Pelt where I OP'd them. Took less powers away, but gave them poison resistance because they can eat anything. And also gave them the ability to find food anywhere and getting sustenance from things that would not normally be food for other races because they like to eat. So advantage on wisdom survival checks to find food in any environment. And be able to pretty much eat things that other people would find distasteful or would make them ill. They can survive anywhere. So I didn't, they've got, and that kind of maps with the 3X. Their whole thing is they're always ravenously hungry and are really big into just attacking everything and just eating everything. They're not very super organized because of that. And they're much more feral. And you're certainly going to find more brown gorgers that are more bad just because of, I'd say evil, because of this instinctiveness. A brown gorger who's redeemed would have to basically overcome that constant internal hunger.
Right.
And so to play one, that would be a really interesting dichotomy, is to be like, all right, I'm, say, a follower of Tannel, or she's a hunter and I'm a brown gorger, some sort of a hunter, but I need to fight against my inner nature of eating everything to, not be horrible and eat my friends, So that could be a really interesting thing to play.
And you could liken it very much to playing a character with an addiction. Like it could be a human that is addicted to something, to the point that they will harm someone else to get that thing.
Yeah.
And so now they are trying to get over it, but addiction doesn't go away just because you gain control over it for a little while. People in Alcoholics Anonymous are like, I am still an alcoholic, you know what I mean? And this person would be like, I am still technically
a glutton.
A glutton, right?
Yeah.
But I'll try not to eat you in your sleep.
But they also say addiction is easier to get over if you have a strong community and a lot of support from your friends and your family or found family even. And so I could easily imagine a brown gorger PC who's a Slytherin PC descended from brown gorger, whatever, who's allied themselves with other PCs to be like, help me with my addictive nature. Right. And so I don't and so, or maybe I eat a lot, but I eat healthier. Not healthier. It's more acceptable things.
There you go. Right.
I'll eat this cow rather than this sentient being. Yeah. Yeah. I also just naturally made them a little heftier and bigger than your average Slytherin because they tend to be heftier. And I think they would make excellent fighters or maybe even barbarians, because they got that kind of just the extra musclier edge and the ability to actually, and Slytherin. The default race in the SLPG, it's con increases by 2, and Dex or Wisdom, I think it's Wisdom, increased by 1. I said Strength because I think the brown gorgers would be beefy, and I upped their damage on their bite attack because
that makes sense. That's awesome.
it's like, of course their damage and their bite attack would be stronger. They eat things. So that's kind of what I did with them. And I think, I'm trying to remember, were they one of the, because they're one of the, there were 4 in the back of the creature collection. And I'm trying to remember if the Brown Gorgers were one of them. I can't remember. Diseased, Dunewalker, Foamer, Red Witch. No, they were not one of them. Good. So I feel bad because there were 4 that I was like trying to stick to the rules.
Yeah.
Because there's actually examples. So that's the Brown Gorgers. Yeah, and A-Kid has a major beef with them, and this is why he's really hates Slytherin, because Brown Gorgers ate his dad. Or so he believes.
Right.
So he believes. So he really hates Slytherin because, you know, they ate his dad, and that's kind of awful. And it was kind of interesting because he lives on the border of the Blood Steppes, and I was like doing the research, and I was like, oh, there's Brown Gorgers who live in the Blood Steppes, so you know, there's that.
Yeah.
So it kind of worked. Okay, moving on to the next one alphabetically. We're gonna go to the Dunewalkers. So they are the progenitor. Their progenitor is Thulkas, the Iron Lord, the Titan of Fire and volcanoes, and you know, if you want to go to an elemental Titan, it's this guy. And they were called the Daywalkers in the original lore, and since they're one of the 4 in here, actually named as the Dunewalkers. I think I know why they named them. They changed the name because by calling them Daywalkers implies that none of the other races could actually walk in the day.
Right.
Which we don't. But Slytherin aren't vampires.
Right.
They can totally walk. They have dark. Most of the races have dark vision, or most of the broods have dark vision, but they don't have any kind of aversion to light. It's not like the old drow where they're like, oh, I get dazzled when I'm in bright light. They don't have that. So I think that's probably why they changed the name. So like, because Daywalkers implied something that, you know, that they didn't want. So they called them Dunewalkers, which is fine. I think. So I put a note, sometimes called Daywalkers by other Slytherin for their weak night vision.
Nice.
They suck. They're not as good as us. So I did take away their dark vision, which you could argue against, because I think do they have dark vision? So I might change that back.
You could
do have dark vision in this.
You could do the reduced dark vision like orcs have, where it's only 30 feet instead of 60.
They're described on page 209 and in the SLPG as having dark vision. So I'm like, but it was a kind of a way of nerfing them. So I'm dithering on that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make sense for them to have dark vision, because like the reason everybody else had dark vision was because they travel about underground, and the Dunewalkers clearly don't.
Right.
So why would they have dark vision? It just didn't make sense to me. I don't know. They're mostly known for dwelling in deserts, which Thulkas was also known for, and you find them mostly in the Cruden Desert, not in the Morning Marshes. Not to say there aren't any, but they're really not known for being in the Morning Marshes. And most of the Morning Marshes, Slytherin would be like, you're weirdo. Because they would be really weird for them. And I took some of the abilities from the Ironbred, because it kind of made sense, because they're also created by Thulkas. These are created by Thulkas. So I gave them the Fireborn ability, which basically they have a higher tolerance to heat. They don't have advantage on saves versus heat, and saves versus fire damage. And they also have, and straight out of this book, they have this. Was it in here? Spirited Charge ability, where they can like leap at you at the first round of combat. And have proficiency with spears, so they can like poke at you with spears, because it's kind of their thing. So they're not super special beyond like, if you're gonna play a desert dwelling, if you're doing a desert dwelling campaign, you want to play Slytherin. This is an interesting alternative. You know, you sacrifice some of the like make friends with dire rats for resistant to fire. Right. So might be a good swap for you. If you want to play Slytherin. So yeah. It's like give folk also brood, So I don't think they're super interesting, but there you go. Next one, this is one of my favorites. I guess one of my favorites. I have too many favorites. So I guess Jaywalkers was like my not favorite, but these ones I liked using. They're called the Foamers, 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 which is they're the spawn of Kadum, the bleeding one, the mountain shaker. Did he make them deliberately? No. Pretty sure that's a no, because they are clearly ocean oriented, and he wasn't into making water things until after he was thrown in the ocean. So I think it's pretty clear that these are rats that nommed on his blood in the Blood Sea and turned into the Slitherin. Found pretty much on the east coast of Gelspad. They're in the Morning Marshes. They're also kind of found in kind of just general area, but also in ocean areas. Like you'd find foamers in, say, the islands, the archipelago in the middle of the Blood Sea, and you could even find these guys potentially in Termana because they would travel. Because you talk about rats on boats. These are the rats on the boats.
That's the first thing my head went to when I was thinking about it. It was just like, these are very potentially those rats that were on pirate ships or boats that were in the sea during
Bingo.
Right. And one day the crew woke up and they're like, where's so and so? And they went downstairs and there was a freaking foamer there eating
or more likely this rat just started climbing the rigging and started pulling the sails and going, I will help you. I think that's as likely as being like, if you let me stay on your ship, I will help you run the ship and teach me how, And I can picture these foamers being like, I want to be a sailor, because they're known for this. And you can actually find ships that are completely crewed by foamer Slytherin. So if you're going to be a sailor Slytherin, you're going to be a foamer. And I actually debate, should I give them just automatically proficiency boats? I didn't, but that's certainly a consideration. I'm writing that down as a note to myself to add that later. They really should have that.
I would do it.
I just didn't think it was going to do this. They really should. Like you get a choice. You can have tool use ships because it just makes. Foamers are neat though because they're bigger than any other Slytherin.
Yeah.
So all the Slytherin, the base default of Slytherin, they're described as like around 5 feet tall, but only if they're always hunched over because they're like rats. They don't stand up straight. So presumably when they stand up straight, they're probably more like maybe 5.5 feet tall. Foamers are like 7 feet fucking tall. These things are monstrous. They're barely within the realm of medium, and so they're way bigger than your average Ratfolk. And so I was just like, they get a plus to strength. They just get a plus to strength. And these are sailors, but I think they're also make good barbarians. I up their bite because they're huge, and I gave them the blood frenzy because and they pretty much have it. So they're actually in here, and so they've got. Do they have the blood frenzy in here? They don't have the blood frenzy in here, do they? But I think they would have that, and I gave them. They have the greater stamina too. So that just basically means you can pick athletics as a skill, which sailors, athletics, climbing.
Totally.
Yeah. So I think, and I took away some of the, you don't make friends with dire rats and that kind of stuff. But I think that's a good balance. Because they're a little, you already got the extra strength, so they're a little overpowered for that. But I think you want to play Slytherin on the water, this is your beast.
Yeah.
And interesting thing about the foamers that I think is really wild, and we get into this a little bit in the book. So in the description of the Morning Marshes, do you have the map of the Morning Marshes?
I do.
There's this place in the Morning coming from out of the Warrens of the Ratmen book, where they have there's this location called the fleet, the Marsh Fleet, or the the ships, I think it's also called.
On the map, it's listed as
Basically,
ships. Yeah.
ships. Yeah, I think we renamed it the Marsh Fleet and Vigilant just because of it was too ambiguous what we meant by that. But it's kind of located in, and this doesn't really help you much, but kind of the sort of northwest edge of Morning Marshes. And basically, there's this bunch of boats in the middle of the marsh, and this is hundreds of miles from the Blood Sea. So it's not like, how did they get here? Like, okay, maybe it was Cadam's deluge
Right.
move them, but really that far? That seems too much. And also more keep showing up. So, and there's more deluges, there's more tidal waves. So what the heck? Theory, probably some kind of portal or Devil's Triangle kind of thing somewhere in the Blood Sea, and they just dropped from the sky. I guess. I don't know. Who knows? It's magic. A wizard did it. So, but there's this fleet of boats in the middle of the swamp and just there, and the foamers a bunch of foamers just basically moved in, so the foamers who aren't out on ships in the sea or literally on the coast, there's this small community of them living these ships in the middle of a swamp, and the ships are just rotting there in the swamp, and it's just horrible and awesome. And that's one of Eocade's first encounters with a Slitherin, is facing one of these foamers and being kind of horrified because it was 7 fucking feet tall. It's like, oh dear. Oh dear.
Oh dear.
It's cool, and I absolutely love it. And just another one of those weird, wacky mysteries, the Scarred Lands, that I just think is cool. And it's like, you could have that. It's like, I want to move my campaign has been out in the Blood Sea for a while. I'm going to move them to land. Oop, they fell through a portal, and now they're in the middle of the Morning Marshes. Boom. You could do that. It would be cool. I love it. Absolutely love it. So foamers make great threats of just having a Slytherin who's just terrifying. Moving on. My next brood, going alphabetically, it's the Forge Crawlers. I like this one because they're insane. Not necessarily insane, but they're over the top. These are the spawn of Gulthaga the Shaper. Were they created by Gulthaga's viscera, or were they intentional? Either or. Maps, Gulthaga made plenty of servitile races. So, yeah, or they could have just been rats hanging around his forge, and they got, I don't know, exposed to sparks from his forge, or who knows what, and turned into sentient rat people. Who knows? Either way, they kind of got the vibe down of Gulthaga's making crazy shit thing going here, and they're really into it. They're actually a kind of a split fractured brood, and have 2 sub broods. For the most part, they're pretty much the same, kind of base Slytherin, but they're 2 kind of communities, what are called the apothecaries, drop in the A of apothecary, just apothecaries,
right,
and the mechanicians, which sounds like sort of mechanic magician,
right.
Those are weird. and their whole both sects, raison d'etre, is making a cool thing. So just like Gulthaga was all about crafting things, and this Slytherin brood is all about just making stuff. So I mean, I looked at it now, and if you're ever gonna play a what are they called, arcanist, this is the brood. Artificer.
Artificer. Thank you. I'm like, Artificer? I can't think of the word.
Artificer. Yeah. If you're gonna play an artificer, I know it's not standard class. You gotta dig into some of the other expanded D&D stuff, but this would be the race,
right?
Because they this is their thing, and I would definitely think that it would be that kind of thing. So I gave them the option that you can either add +2 to int or +2 to wisdom if you're going to play one of these guys, because and depending which side you go and whatnot, if it makes more sense to do wisdom or int. But the apothecaries are all about making liquid substances, potions, poultices, There's actually a nice alliteration here. I'll read it. Poultices, can't say it. Poisons, poultices, and potions. Thank you, Scarred Lands, for giving us more opportunities for alliteration. So and their whole thing is creating this like they're as alchemists and creating this like ultimate signature brew. So each one, as they advance in their career as an alchemist or potion maker, whatever they're doing, is they want to make something unique, that's some kind of brew or potion that that they put their kind of label on. So a higher level apothecary forge crawler would be all about that. And forge crawlers, or the apothecaries in particular, are sources of, you want to buy a poison, you're an assassin in Scarred Lands and you want to buy the best poison ever, find these guys. Go to the Morning Marshes, find one of their warrens and buy it, because nobody on Scarn, certainly nobody in Gelspad, is going to make a better poison than these guys, because that's kind of their thing. And there's actually the Warrens of the Ratman have several crazy poisons listed, and including some that are absolutely, truly horrific. And there's a whole plot around that in Vigilant of horrific poisons because of these guys. Because there's lots of nasty things in the marshes that you can make poisons out of.
That makes sense.
You think about it, both the blood of Cadam, but also just, you mix the blood of Cadam with the viscera of Churn. Yeah, that's something horrible would happen. And these guys are experimenting with it and kind of creating their thing. So that's the apothecaries, and then the other half is the mechanicians, and their thing is machines, gadgets, and golems. So they're all about making just weird constructs, and their kind of goal is their magnum opus, some kind of construction that's uniquely theirs and cool and interesting. And it's I think they're pretty cool. But the description in the book, and I love this, is there's like, you can always tell it's a forge crawler construction because there will be absolutely no aesthetic principle or concept behind it whatsoever. Like, they're about function and ability, not about aesthetics or beauty. They're just like we took this cobbled together gear and tube and screw and kind of meshed it together and made this golem. So attractive they are not.
But it works.
But it works really well. And that's their kind of thing. So I gave the apothecaries, I gave poison resistance and proficient in alchemical tools. The mechanicians, I gave them proficiency in artisan tools, as well as this weird ability that was described, which was called Discern Weakness. Kind of like the old 3x assassin ability.
Yeah.
Where if you spend 3 rounds looking at somebody, you get an automatic assassin attack thing that does extra damage. I looked at it as, you spend 3 full rounds examining specifically a golem or construct or some kind of device, something in that category. They spend 3 full rounds or more studying it. They can find a weak spot, which gives them advantage when they attack it for the rest of that combat. And they can also spend an action to describe where that weak spot is to their allies, who would also get advantage if they can hear them. So think about it as like, hit it in the little gear in its butt. Right. And everybody's like, right, get it in the gear in the butt, and everybody piles on whatever that is. Because they're just so good at figuring out how constructs work. So not a really amazing ability, but so I think it's pretty nerfed. But it's kind of cute.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. So I don't find these guys really, particularly overpowered, but interesting, as I said. And if you're going to play an artificer, plot-wise, it's totally there. Or an assassin, I make my own poisons. They're found they have a pretty large community in the southern end of the Morning Marshes. So if you could pass the diseased warrens and all of that stuff. And I totally picture these guys in the walled warrens, because so you picture the difference between a redeemed and an unredeemed forge crawler. that the unredeemed are doing it for the glory of Golthaga, and the redeemed are doing it for the glory of themselves. I think it's that simple. To play a redeemed forge crawler would not be much of a difference, really.
Right.
So, and I could totally see them in the Walled Warren going, let's make a new thing, and helping construct it and helping stabilize it, because they're all about crafting. And,
Right.
and I might picture Walled Warren having like this force of golems defending the walls or something like that. So I think they're culturally neat. Maybe not overpowered to play, but certainly culturally neat. Moving on. Probably the most, after the disease, I'd say this is the most well-known brood. It's the Red Witches. This is the brood of Mormo. This is the mother of snakes. And they pretty sure they were created by her. They don't feel. I mean, again, there's plenty of Viscera around for them to have nommed on, but there's definitely feels like an intent, because the Red Witches are, for the most part, really loyal, and really crazy. Their stick really is like the Black Pelts are sorcery, the Red Witches are to wizardry. They're natural wizards. I gave them all a wizard cantrip by default, although it has to be from either the illusion or necromancy schools.
Nice.
Because they do stipulate that they're either illusionists or necromancers. Kind of like the way arcane tricksters have to be illusion or enchantment. So just necromancy instead. And they're big on necromancy. They tend to, like, if you're going to find a Slitherin with like an undead army behind them, or a couple skeletons carrying their pack,
Right.
it's going to be a Red Witch. Beyond that, that's pretty much it. I think they'd probably live longer too, because they say Slytherin only lived about 60, and on Red Witches, there's just something about them, I think, that would give them reason. They just would live if they survive. They've got a tenacity about them that most of the other broods lack, and also there's a Red Witch described in the text, and while they talk about her daughters, so she's not like a grandmother or anything. She's very hale and hearty, and her daughters are adult, so I can't imagine she would be at the end of her life at 60. So I was just like, Red Witch has got to live longer than 60. They're just too badass. So it's like I bumped up their older ages, and she's pretty fun, and serves kind of a critical plot in Serpent Amphora too, because the whole thing about Serpent Amphora is bringing back Mormo, and the Red Witches are definitely involved in that.
Right.
So they're mostly found in the Hornsop Forest, no surprise, and the Morning Marshes.
More
They're
pleasant
definitely...
areas.
Yeah, pretty much. And presumably travel across the blood steps between them, but you'll find warrens of them both in the Morning Marshes and in the Hornsop. And the Devout obviously are really, really big into bringing back Mormo, and I would say Mormo has more followers into bringing her back than just about any other Titan. But also more followers who are into not bringing her back, but gaining power from her abilities without bringing her back than just about any Titan. So you've got definitely a conflict between Mormites, where it's like they all get power from her, but like half of them are like no, and half of them are like yes, and so. But the Red Witches are definitely amongst the group of we want to bring her back. I think playing a redeemed one, it'd just be like, I've turned my back on Mormo and now I'm about something else, and there would be, I think, an easy switch to go from Mormo to Bellsmith. Just thought. Just seems like an easy shift. Uh-oh, have I crashed? Oh no. Ah!
I can hear you. You're just not moving.
You can hear me. You're not moving either. Okay, that's a bad sign. So we may have to reconnect. It always seems to happen around this point.
Yeah, go ahead and drop out and come back, and we'll see if that fixes it.
Let's just say, yeah, okay. You can't even... Oh, no. Discord's completely hung. Wait. No.
We're spinning.
Oh.
We're spinning.
Moving again. You're moving again. Working on my end. Just
Oh, the internet.
I don't need my picture, right? If you can hear my voice.
Yeah, that's fine.
Uh,
We'll keep going, and
oh,
when you
moving
pop
on,
back up,
moving on,
that's
moving on.
that's
Okay. Stalkers. Are we on? If you've moved on to stalkers. Oh, red witches. Oh, one other thing about red witch before we move on. They're shorter than most other Slytherin, which are already pretty short. And they wear red cloaks a lot. I guess that's it. Okay, stalkers. I love the confusion around stalkers. Stalkers are the brood that came from Hrunruk, Titan of the Hunt. They're one of the smaller broods. I wouldn't necessarily the smallest, but certainly one of the smaller ones. And I make the case that most of them are probably redeemed because there is strong because the 3X books didn't have the concept of redeemed, but they did describe that it was very rare to find a stalker who was actually revering and adamant about Hrunruk. Most of them don't give a shit about Hrunruk, and just a handful. There's probably a small handful that are like, we want to bring Hrunruk back, and most of the rest of them are like, you're nuts. No. So I think it's a good case that these are probably rats that found bits of Hrunruk in like wherever Hrunruk bits are perforated planes, I think, and nommed on them and became sentient rat folk. Or not the perforated planes. Wherever the heck Hrunruk fell. Stricken Forest? I don't know. I don't remember where Hrunruk fell anymore. It's somewhere around there. No, not the Stricken Forest. That wasn't it. Bleak Savannah? Scrub Woods? Foul Forest? I don't know. One of those horrible places. I think it's in central Gelsvad somewhere. But in any case, stalkers, I think are mostly probably redeemed. Minus a small handful. They very roguey, and they're described as a lot of them are assassins. So I can totally picture and maybe even are making some stalkers who are big into the whole Belsmith thing. Mostly they're pretty much like your standard Slytherin as per the book. The only addition really is they have poison ability, but not an ability to create poisons and sort of like as a tool use. Trained in the use of poisons and poison their weapons, which again goes back to assassin, and have a kind of an expanded weapon list that the base Slytherin have. Otherwise, they're pretty much just like your standard Slytherin in the SLBG. I find them interesting specifically because of the term stalker. So, and this is confusion for me. Gotta know it. It's big reveal. We're not done writing it, but the title of book 2 in Through Shadows and Dreams is Stalker. No relation to the Slytherin. Eocade, as described, is a vigil stalker. That's his kind of prestige class for all the 3X Pathfinder rules. For as a vigilant, and as he grows in his path, more of it is kind of those things specifically that urban stalker, vigilant stalkers do. There's a urban stalker, actual prestige thing in the 5X rules, and so this is a specific branch of the Veshan Vigil called stalkers, and I'm like, so there's a stalker vigilant thing, and there's a Slytherin brood with the same name.
Right.
This is coincidence? I mean, the Vigilant's really against the Slytherin, specifically targeted them as favored enemies, and yet there's a brood with the same name. And I'm like, this isn't confusing.
Right.
But Scarred Lands, as we call in programming language, overloading classes. That's probably a really confusing term. To overloaded term classes, but Scarred Lands taking a term and using it for multiple unrelated things happens a lot. Happens just a lot. So, conflict, different people writing at the same time and not talking enough, or having a Bible. I don't know. Too many books came out too fast. Not complaining. I am complaining, but I'm not meaning to complain. So, but I kind of like that dichotomy, and that argument is like, okay, could a Slytherin stalker be a vigil stalker?
Right. One day.
I don't know. maybe one day if the Vigil ever gets off their racist
Right?
butts and decide that it's okay. So I think it's neat.
Yeah.
And I like the stalkers. They're kind of like, to me they feel more interesting to play if you're going to play a Slytherin, to play one from this brood, because as I said, they're not really, you're not going to find any unredeemed, or very many. There's probably like a small handful, like a dozen of them out there looking for Hrinrook's bits. It's like, where's his head? I don't know. But like and they're also found mostly in urban environments, not in wilderness.
Gotcha.
So that's another kind of interesting thing about them, is you go to a
Uh-oh. Now we've lost your audio. And she's gone. Let's see if I'm still streaming. Yeah.
Discord.
If you can hear me, hang up completely and come back.
That's what I'm doing.
Okay.
Coming back.
Yay! Welcome back.
Can you hear me? All right. Sorry about that. I don't know what's
technology. Yay!
That, or one of my housemates is playing a game. I know. They're probably not even awake yet. I was playing Final Fantasy on the internet. No. I think it's just like, the neighborhood is like suddenly getting on the internet at this time of day.
Totally understand.
Yeah. So it's like our bandwidth just goes, okay. So stalkers, interesting. Moving on. Now we get into the weird ones, and I joked, like, these last 3 or 4.
Yeah.
4 are the fucking weird brutes, and not it's like how this happened alphabetically, but these are this is the land of, I had to stretch the kind of concept of playing one of these, because none of these were playable right. In the 3X, they had about half of them where we could come up with a template to make them playable.
Yeah.
They did really try to make them playable, but like these 4 weren't playable. They were like, no, they're too weird. They're too weird. And so I was like, no, I'm gonna do it. So I was like, okay, and I probably spent the most time on these 4 because they're just that weird. So starting with Storm Chasers, which are nuts. This is Ketinas' spawn, Dame of Storms. And these are, I would unarguably say, are the most fanatical of the unredeemed Slytherin broods. They're effing nuts. So I actually had to split them. I have redeemed and unredeemed. And unredeemed have more abilities than redeemed. And this is my reasoning for this, because they are incredibly overpowered. As described in the 3X books, and but the powers are just too cool not to have. So I was like, okay, fine. If you are a fanatical follower of Lethina, you can have this ability, but you are broken. And you're not a PC, really. You can't really be a PC if you're that. So the redeemed, those who have turned their back on Lethina and have moved on and said Inkili is the bomb or something like that, still get a couple of Lethina's like genetically things. And also, again, this is probably something she made because there really wasn't any viscera for them to nom on, unless it was a windy day and it rained on us and we turned into sentient rat people. I don't know. That would work. But anyway, so the abilities I give them are immune to lightning damage, which is really powerful for a playable race. Not resistance, immune, because honestly they have to be. And they have an extra ability to channel lightning and add lightning damage to an unarmed attack. Not an armed attack, but an unarmed attack.
Yeah.
So because like Lethina, redeemed or not, still runs through them, and like they are eternally charged with lightning. So they can add 1d4 lightning damage to a single unarmed attack per round. No, did I give it? rechargeable, so they can only do it
Gotcha.
once after a
Even
rest. So
without
they
the
need a short
recharge,
rest.
like it doesn't overpower things like bite attacks or anything like that. Because essentially,
Yeah.
you're not doing, you're not giving them like extra bludgeoning and the lightning. So they're just doing their 1 point plus their strength plus lightning. So I mean,
Plus lightning, yeah. So it's
it's not going to
D4.
overpower a bite too much.
Yeah, yeah. And then they only get it on an unarmed attack.
Yeah.
So it's like, but I also added a little. So you get this 1d4 plus on once per short rest. And then I said, okay, let's make this more interesting. Let's make them monks because this is a good map. So I
Right.
said, and in addition, you can spend a key point to do it again before that short rest. So if you want to blow your key points and adding up 1d4 damage to your
Right.
attacks, blah. And then I also upped it to 1d6 when you hit level 5. Please tell me if this seems overpowered, because I would love feedback on the Storm Chasers, because I was like, I may have made them too badass, I don't know. I have to think about that. And I do have to think about this one, because I wrote this kind of quick, and I was like, and I thought about it, and I haven't decided on something better.
Yeah. Playtesting, yay!
This one definitely needs, this is one of the ones that definitely needs playtesting. And then Unredeemed, I gave them 2 additional abilities, because they're described in 3.5, and I wanted to really get this across. I gave them the extreme devotion that cultists have, the cultist NPCs have. Which basically, they get advantage on saves versus like being charmed or like going against their fanaticism. Or cult fanatics, I think that was from cult fanatics. And then there's this last thing that I'm still dithering over because it's way too insane, which is the storm form ability, which is described in 3X. That's just completely effed up, where they can temporarily manifest into basically a mini lightning storm.
Kind of like an elemental,
and it lets them fly and do all this crazy stuff. So I was like, okay, this is really broken.
Ooh, right.
So I'm thinking like, and I'd love feedback on this one, because this is like really messed up. Thinking like, okay, you gain a fly speed of 30 feet for 1 minute per long rest. And you cannot attack with weapons or cast spells while in this form, because it's sort of like the misty thing form.
Yeah.
But you can still do an unarmed attack with lightning damage.
Lightning, yeah.
So I like the idea. It's like, okay, I'm going to be a storm chaser monk, and I will just go crazy once a day and turn into this little mini storm and beat people up with my key powers. And just, it's like, so this would be a really, really overpowered flying monk at first level. I'm like, this is probably too much.
Right.
So like only Unredeemed can do this. Only Unredeemed have the storm form, because this comes from leafing. This comes from your devotion to leafing.
Right.
If you focus enough, you gain it. I mean, an alternative could be like, maybe you get this at a higher level, but I don't know how that works for 5th edition. So this one's still like, I'm still thinking about this one. So I'm definitely looking for feedback on this one, because they're kind of broken, to say the least. So yeah. Anyway, they're primarily found, and they're not even described as like where they're found. I look at it as primarily found wherever it's weathery, wherever there's a lot of storms. So I can picture them on the Blood Sea. I can picture them in like the Devil's March. Really stormy, crazy place. Definitely in the Blood Steppes. Because Blood Steppes gets weather. So anywhere that gets weather, because they're literally like, you think of those tornado chasers, those crazy people who go and film tornadoes. They're like this. Except they don't take damage. I mean, maybe wind damage, but they don't take lightning damage. So you literally follow lightning storms around and revel in it. And that's their way of worshiping Lethina. They don't necessarily have like a real thing about freeing her, because I think they realize that they really don't have any way to free her, because A, she doesn't seem to want to be freed, and B, it would mean like going to limbo and begging Inkili to let her out. So not likely. But they definitely revel in their just worship of her and everything about that. So like their entire being is their extreme devotion to her. So I could picture Redeemed shifting there allegiance to in Keeley, and still kind of doing the same shit, but I would not let them have those two, the fanatic power or the turn into weather
Right.
ability. 'Cause that's just too much. But and again, iffy on that. But I think they're really cool. If really just crazy, crazy rat people, and kind of really honestly really good monsters more than playable.
Yeah. Yeah.
But next one, although also okay, this one was fun. They're called the Stricken. This is why I have not published the book yet. I can't publish the book without this art. I can't describe the Stricken without the art. I mean, I
Yeah.
can. So I'm gonna have to create, because I don't have access. I don't know if you have the Stricken actual character, but these are the spawn of Gormoth, the writhing one, and they are kind of the most horrific Slitherin. They're one of the most horrific things. I mean, if you want to think of truly abominations of Scarn, these are it. And you can see what it's like. I can describe these to death, but until you see this art, you're like, oh, that's what they mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't have the ability to publish this with most of the art. There's like 4 or 5 pictures of Slytherin I can use, but I
Right.
can't use these pieces that you're showing today, or most of these pieces, because they're not available in the Slytherin Vault, and until they
Right.
become available, I can't use them. So I either have to come up with original art or reference it or something in some way. So, and I am struggling to figure out how to publish this without this glorious piece to describe the Stricken. It's the fishtail really that does it.
I was
for
just
me.
about to, so the fishtail, and then the fact that there's like a hand growing out of its leg holding its tail.
Yeah.
I'm just like, yeah.
So and my first reaction was, why would anyone ever want to play one? So these clearly, I mean, I don't think Gormoth made them intentionally. I think they somehow got exposed as, like, when they got cut Gormoth in two, maybe some bits fell and they
Right.
nommed on it. They're not really loyal to Gormoth in a way. They're just basically controlled by his horror. So in that his twistedness and his mutations have really affected them, and they are in constant pain, and they are also constantly kind of pissed about it.
Yeah.
And enjoy making other things suffer. So to play a PC Stricken would be someone who was trying to overcome that, but still in constant agony. So
Right.
it would be a rough class or race to play. You'd be really thinking out of the box here to play one of these guys. I make the joke, Stricken don't make for excellent anything, but they could conceivably be decent fighters, rogues, or monks, maybe. And then I tried to take their abilities and see how they looked in 5e rules, and now I want to play a Stricken.
Nice.
I'm not kidding, because I was like, okay, these are kind of terrifyingly badass. They're horrible, as I said, but when you look at what they can do, and this is based on the 3X rule set, and I've kind of twisted this. So first off, obviously they grow extra bits. So and the way I interpreted this is each time they gain a hit die or a level, they gain an extra body part.
Gotcha.
I've got a random table of body parts.
Yeah, that's
so
awesome.
Just roll on this table, and it's like, do you have another leg? Do you have another? And I said that on any time you would gain a stat bonus, one of these body parts is conveniently located to be helpful to you. So as opposed to fishtail, which is kind of just a thing that doesn't really help you,
Right.
you get like an extra tail that you'll help you balance, or an extra leg, or maybe an extra heart, or an extra head that isn't just a growth but actually can do things.
Right.
And so the idea is, like, every 4 levels or so, one of these bits makes you more interesting. So, and you get one at first level, and then from there on. So to get an extra arm, you could conceivably have another claw attack, or it could just be like, oh, here, hold this sort of. If you get an extra head, you could have a bite attack, or just, be eating with that head while talking with yours. I made it a big stink though that your primary head is still what you perceive through.
Right.
So you don't really perceive things through the extra head, even though it can give you nourishment. You can command it. And it has its own eyes. You don't really process that. It's more like an extra being, so you don't get any of those advantages of that an Etten would get from having multiple heads, or a Hydra would get. You don't, because that's just too powerful. And I was like, and there's really no reason to, because it's more of a mutant growth than an actual sentient head. It's like it can bite things, or maybe you could talk through it or something. I don't know. And then an extra tail would make you balance better, or an extra leg, you could move faster. And so I give them that, and then kind of a negative positive flip, because they're in constant pain. They have disadvantage on all concentration checks. So it sucks to be a stricken caster.
Yeah.
But resistance to psychic damage.
Huh.
Because you're in pain all the time, so you're used to it. So if somebody actually tries dissonant whispers on you, you're like, what? You're not telling me anything I don't already know. Really? What?
Right.
I have extra bits. It's like, really? I know I'm horrific. You can't mock me. Vicious mockery. Totally resistant to vicious mockery. Just no. But then finally the pièce de crazy. What their shtick is, and this is described in 3X, and I was like, how do I 3.5 this or 5e this? Homunculuses. Homunculi. So the stricken in 3X are described as having the ability to basically take one of these extra bits, the extra leg, the extra arm, not the functional one, but one of the non-functional one's the least useful one, and spawn it off to create a little mini stricken homuncula, like a little tiny version of itself that can go in and create mayhem. So and it was really restricted rules, and clearly it's meant that you're meant to fight these in battle, and you just get overwhelmed by little tiny rats, and basically like can make little rats at you. Well, I was like, well, if you think about it this way, it's like, how are familiars frequently used? And these are kind of just familiars, right? So what would be nerf familiars, but you can make a shitload of them? So in the original book, it says, okay, they have to be within 20 feet. And you can only make 5. So I was like, okay, you can only make 5, but I'm looking at it going, but these are, CRX monster, and that's kind of maps their hit dice. So I said, okay, as you level as a PC, if you're playing a PC stricken, your Oculus ability should level. Odds or evens. Let's just pretend we rolled evens and go on. So I said, okay, for every hit die you have, you can make a homunculi. And it's a tiny version. It's tiny little minion of you with a strength of 4. Otherwise, it has your stats. It has your skills. It has your knowledge. It can't talk. But you have a telepathic link to it, and it doesn't have any of your other class abilities. So no monk attacks, no sneak attacks, no spell casting, none of that. But it knows what you know. So if like you have +3 to nature, it can roll a nature check, for example, and then relay that information back to you. But it can only be 20 feet away, so it's not like you can use these as scouts. As soon as it's more than 20 feet away, it goes inert. And if it's away from you longer than an hour, it dissolves. And you can't reabsorb it.
Yeah.
So you can so as I forget, it's a standard action or bonus action. You can spawn one of these as an action. A bonus action. You can spawn one as a bonus action, and you can reabsorb one as a bonus action. And when you spawn one, you decide how many hit points it gets, and then your hit points drops by that. Your hit point maximum drops by that, and your hit point maximum doesn't go up again until either you've reabsorbed it or you've finished a long rest.
Yeah. So
this really balances that out. So as I make little homunculi, my hit points go down.
Right.
So and you can be like, it's 2 hit points, and I'm putting a whole hit die into it. So 2 hit points, and I'm keeping my remaining 16 or whatever. And you can make like 1 per your hit dice. So as level 10, you can have 10 of these little fuckers running around. Right. But they're all within 20 feet of you, so they're not going to go very far. But imagine playing like a monk or something, and just fuck tons of these little guys are biting, because while their strength is lower, their dex isn't.
Right.
It's like there's no reason to nerf their other stats. because they're slow in hit points, so they just pick pile on whatever you're fighting, and that could be really terrifying at higher levels. You know,
Right.
first level you're like, hold this. You know, for 5th level you're like, "Brah." So they don't get the multi attack thing of monks, but they still get a bite attack.
Yeah.
And if you made little tiny weapons for them, because I also restrict it because they're naked. You know, they don't spawn with clothing or armor or anything.
Right.
So, but if you made little tiny weapons, you could arm them.
I like it.
Here's your sword. Although I just said no class proficiencies,
Yeah.
so you know, okay, you have a spear, simple weapon, or whatever. So that's kind of, and again, these definitely need to be play tested. I don't know what's gonna happen with these guys, but I love the idea, and then this call like all came from 3X that these stricken could generate these things. So truly horrifying brood because Gormoth is messed up, and this is what Gormoth's creatures would look like.
Right.
Okay, any thoughts about the stricken? And they really got to be playtested.
Yeah. I would playtest the crap out of that.
I would. It's like I want to play one now that I've created this
Right?
like kind of. And I don't think they're overpowered because it's at first, second level. It's not really much more than.
Right.
In fact, they're not even as cool as a familiar. So, yeah, and they make terrible spellcasters. So, I may have nerfed them too much.
Playtesting for the win.
Yeah, let's playtest this. Okay, moving on. The Unseeing. I didn't say where the stricken were found. I don't know if I know where the stricken were found. I don't think I'd figured that out yet. So I need to do more research in figuring out where the stricken were found. Okay, so moving on to the Unseeing. Unseeing are the spawn of Gulthane, the faceless one. And these are pretty much the Slitherin that have been beaten the shit out of by the other Slitherin. And probably more often than not, the reason why the Black Pelts will never succeed in unifying all of the Slytherin broods, because nobody will unify with these guys. Not because they're not nice people, because they're too nice. Because frankly, I look at the Unseeing and I go, there are no unredeemed. There is no concept of redeeming because they weren't unredeemed in the first place. Yeah. They really, the concept of redeemed and unredeemed doesn't make any sense for the Unseeing. There's nothing to redeem them for. They never did anything bad. Gulthane did not intentionally create, probably didn't intentionally create them, but they certainly have no desire to bring him back. He's dead. And they may mourn him, but he's found peace. So they're like, that's good. You know, they have no desire to bring him back. And the whole thing around the Unseeing is extreme compassion. And they're, in terms of like monks of, you know, and truly like, I guess stereotypic sense maybe, or like true like succeeding in ultimate just total calmness and peace amongst yourselves. These are it. These are kind of the ultimate in terms of anything that's just been like, it's totally chill, totally like nice and kind and just almost too much in that regard. And incredible empathy. So there's nothing really villainous about this brood at all. The one thing they do say is they do wage a secret war against their own darker natures, of which they don't really seem to have, but presumably they have it somewhere in there, and they've just tried to overcome it. It's like Vulcans of Slytherin. What's interesting about them is they are blind, truly blind in every sense. They literally have no eyes. So creepy, eyeless. Well, kind of creepy in so much as like just eyeless faces. So that's just not fur covering their eyes. There's nothing there to cover. And they have no concept of what vision is. So if you were to somehow magically give them the ability to see, they wouldn't understand. They wouldn't be able to translate or comprehend what it is they were experiencing. They wouldn't have words for it. They would just be confused. So they are by default immune to all effects the blind people.
Yeah.
Like, yes, but they don't have tremor sense. They don't have like those adjusted abilities that you normally get. But instead they have empathic awareness. And this is really cool and crazy. They have this ability that they can detect anything living or conscious within a certain radius of them naturally, and use that to maneuver. And they can detect emotion from them, or just that there is a consciousness there. So, and to things that have no consciousness, they just see it as sort of a void. So that's how they like don't walk on the wall. Like there's no
Fair.
consciousness there, therefore it must be an obstacle. And other that various levels of consciousness is how that they maneuver. But they are definitely, they would definitely want to run with a stick, not to, mix up the wall with empty space. So they are really blind. But and part of this ability is they get advantage against things that are showing extreme emotion, because they kind of get the vulnerability there.
Yeah, it's like the target has been fairy fired, because they're sensing that.
Exactly. Yeah. So say a barbarian was raging.
Yeah.
They would strong emotion, and they would bead right into it. Like, I know exactly where you are, and I can do what I need to do. And obviously they make great monks. That's sort of their shtick in sort of the classic monk sense. I would say that when they would go into combat, that would be like to disable more than 2 kill.
Yeah.
It would be rare for an unseeing to be. You're not a murder hobo.
Yeah.
If you're playing with it, guys. Definitely not.
There's in Scarred Lands, the SLPG, there's the Way of Mercy monk, which these guys just scream that, like, they're still a monk and they still do battle, but it's not like to go out and kick someone's ass. It's more defensive and protecting, and they don't tend to go out and kill the thing that they're attacking. That kind of concept.
Yeah. So if you want to play something really interesting, I think this is the Brood. But now I gave them one other ability that came out of the 3X, which is Saintly Aegis, which was a tough one to translate and definitely needs some playtesting, because I'm not quite sure how it's going to work yet.
Yeah.
But they have this ability to project this calm state. It's kind of like Sanctuary spell, where if you want to fight them, you have to make a will save. If you fail, you literally can't combat them. But it's also almost like it's combining Sanctuary with calm emotions, because they can use it to cause pretty much everybody around them to just chill.
Right.
Like, nope.
Here,
so
smoke
I was like,
this.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody's taking, and I was totally seeing unseeing Slitherin, like, weed dealer.
Right.
So what I said was, if you use your action to calm yourself and do not take any aggressive actions, opponents within 10 feet must make a wisdom save against your save. If they fail, they cannot attack. If they make the save, they're at a disadvantage to attack. This lasts 1 minute or until you attack or cast a spell against an enemy.
So do you have a clarification on that, whether it's to attack you or anyone in general?
Anyone.
Interesting. Yeah.
So that's the sense, is like they're not using it to defend themselves. They're using it to stop the fight.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Like, boom, stop the fight. Because that seems so not like Sanctuary to say I am protected and I can run around and heal all my friends, but just we're not fighting today. Because I think that's more their thing than Sanctuary.
Yeah.
So I wanted so that's why this one again really needs playtesting, because I'm worried it's a little too overpowered. But I like it as a role playing.
Yeah.
I like it as the anti-murder hobo.
Totally.
Party is, you want to play a party that's more in a role playing, less in combat. This would be a really neat thing to play around with, and to play around with this ability. And that is pretty much how the ability worked in 3X. Was they were just like, no fighting today, and they were meant to be this like NPC Slitherin who kind of walked up and told everybody to chill, and everybody's like, why are we not fighting? And it was meant to be this like moment. It could be a good GM tool to be like, the party got in over their heads, I must save them, I'm Slitherin sending in a monk to stop the fight so no one dies. Could be totally used as that. But who's run a combat that went too south and they needed a Deus Ex Machina? These would make a great version of that. But how would it be as a PC? So I think there's a lot of potential here, but how well this plays out, I don't know.
Yeah.
So cool, but yeah. And again, none of them are unredeemed.
Right.
So I think you could still follow Gulthane and be a PC, you know, and the only people who call them unredeemed or whatever Titan spawn would be people who are just racist.
Right.
Yeah, and don't let me forget to talk about what is a Titan spawn at the end of this, because that's a problem that I'm introducing with this concept.
Right.
Final brood in my alphabet is the White Wraiths. The origin of the White Wraiths is unknown. Some suggest they were created by a twisted accident of a wizard experimenting on Slitherin, but the leaders of the White Wraiths insist that they were born of a Titan, although they have no name for that creator beyond the Great Shaman.
And what makes them so different?
They're the spawn of Gulaben.
Right. But like visually, I don't want to open
visually.
I don't want to open the art until you say it.
Well, I like that reading, because Gulaben, the erased Titans,
yeah.
so, and they're definitely her spawn. Whether she made them intentional or not, probably again because wind. How does that work? But and they are the most disturbing. I mean, you thought the Stricken were bad,
right?
And you're like, oh, the Stricken, most disturbing thing. This is a crapshoot. What's more disturbing, the Stricken or the White Wraiths? I would argue the White Wraiths, but yeah, I guess it depends on how you describe your Stricken. They're certainly up there. They look like animated skeletons.
Yeah.
They look like animated skeletons. They're not animated skeletons. All of their tissue, skin, muscle, nerves, organs, everything that's not bone is transparent.
Yeah.
Which is just horrific.
So, I mean, it's there. It's
there.
No one can see it.
You can see through it. So you can see through it right to their skeletons. Which makes me think of, so when a White Wraith eats, okay, the skeleton will hide some of that. But as like they swallow, are you seeing the food slowly evaporate as it is digested and becoming them?
I would go with yes.
This is why I think they're more horrific than the Stricken. Still, balance which is worse. But they just
no one wants to go have a meal with them whatsoever.
No, or if they do have the meal, they'll wear clothes.
Right.
You know. But this is their shtick, is when they go into battle almost naked.
Yeah.
Because they know it freaks out their opponent. So they are known for not wearing armor in battle. So again, great barbarians, or something like that doesn't need to wear armor to fight, or wizards or warlocks who could go in and they don't wear armor. They can use mage armor or whatever. So, and they could just go in and do their thing and come in naked and just be like just totally horrifying. I'd say that when they're kind of walking about, they would be heavily clothed, disguised so they don't stand out in a crowd. Certainly if you're playing a redeemed White Wraith, and I think redeemed White Wraith would be incredibly rare.
Yeah.
Incredibly rare, because everybody's like, it's a lich Slytherin.
Right.
And no, I'm just weird. How do tattoos work?
Yeah. I mean, technically you could do it, but how do? And the other question is, if you can see invisibility, can you see their flesh?
No, well, it's not invisible. It's translucent. You could paint them.
True.
Or tattoo them.
Yeah.
So you could conceivably cover them in war paint or mud or something to make them look different. It's like, what does the fur look like? Because they're Slytherins, they have fur, right? So it's like translucent fur. I mean, the mind boggles as to how these things
like
work.
tattooing them, you have to somehow shave it so that you could reach the skin instead of tattooing their fur. But then does the tattoo disappear? Or does it like remain just floating ever so slightly off of the bone where its flesh is?
I think it would be floating.
I think it would be too. Right.
Unless it absorbed with the ink, because the ink wouldn't be translucent. So anyway, it boggles how this works. You can just do a ton of weird, crazy stuff with and they're also known for wearing lots of jewelry and like gewgaws. So it's like you'd see one with a bracelet on, and it would be sort of floating around the skeleton,
Right.
and it just mind-bogglingly crazy. And they're also known for necromancy, so it gave them a plus to either charisma or intelligence. You could play a warlock or wizard. And that was also, I hadn't done anything with warlocks yet, so I was like, let me make the weight rates be warlocky, because it would make sense
Yeah.
that they would find some kind of a thing, and then it would make sense that they get, find some kind of horrible patron related to that. They're not a common Slytherin brood already, so I think it would be insanely rare to find a unredeemed white wraith. So they've got the translucent thing. So I gave them unnerving. So I forget which. I found that from some other race in the SLPG, which basically just means they're proficient in intimidation. Still uncertain what else to do with them. How I can really get this across. In the 3X books, they have ability to cause paralysis, but it's through alchemy. It's not some natural thing. So
Gotcha.
I just gave them a proficiency in alchemical.
Yeah.
And the specific ability to make this paralysis poison, but I'm not quite sure what to do with that. And I don't even know if it's interesting. But yeah, still, yeah, these are one of the last ones I worked on. I'm still working on it. I'm still trying to figure this one out, like what this means. But creepy.
Totally creepy.
Totally creepy, and I love it. Where they're found, I'm not sure. I know that they're kind of gleaned at and mentioned in that they've been seen in the morning marshes, but they're so rare to begin with.
Yeah.
Wasteland areas mostly, so I can picture them as in small communities, and maybe the desert or in the Blood Steppes or some other place. There's a lot of wastelands in Scarred Lands, so a lot of places there. So you can kind of put them wherever makes sense.
Yeah.
Where they were birthed is not clear, other than somewhere in Galespad. As I said, it's not clear if Gulliban made them intentionally or they somehow evolved from her. But how that works, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, rats exposed to cold shivered their flesh into invisibility.
Right. It could be like the Flash, where he vibrates so fast that he can pass through things, except for this is just their flesh phasing out of visual range.
No. They're weird.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of lore on them. I think it was just like, let's make cool skeleton rats. But why would Gulliban have skeleton rats? I don't know, because she's known for cold and sexy. So, and these aren't really sexy rats. So,
I mean, I am sure that there are people into that. They're called necrophiliacs. However,
I'm trying to picture a white wraith orgy. Oh no, let's just not go there. No, maybe we should. Okay. No, now I'm just picturing a small community of white wraiths and like Shelzar,
right?
And some kind of weird, twisted.
They would be rich. They would be so rich.
Yeah, kind of like necrophiliac,
right?
Whorehouse kind of thing,
right?
I don't know. It's just okay. This thought grosses me out, but also intrigues me. Right. So anyway, cool. So that's our last brood. I would love, and as I said, if anyone wants to get a copy of this little book that I'm working on, I'll happily send you one just to get feedback, and I'll put you in the credits if you do. Once I get this out, and the main thing, obviously I got to finish writing it, but maybe playtest some of this stuff. But the main thing really preventing me from getting it out right away is the art.
Art is always the problem.
Yeah, because I only have about 4 or 5 of these broods for art for these broods, and I really, at minimum, like get the white wraiths and the stricken, at dead minimum the stricken, because they're just really, white wraiths.
How do you explain that, right?
But stricken, so I'm gonna see if maybe I can get some original art.
Yeah.
But that's next time. So I might put it out artless with a whole, like, if you purchase it, update it, and give you an update once we have some art added. But
So
that may
we're
be the obstacle.
running short on time, but do you want to talk about the Maulers?
The Maulers. Oh, right. So they're not a brood. They're a creation by the Red Witches, but also that other broods have been known to use. I think it's the Red Witches. Pretty sure it's the Red Witches. We do use them. They do show up in Vigilant a couple times. They're basically they took a Slitherin, any brood, and exposed it to toxins and brews and stuff, and it turns in. If you ever seen the movie Beastmaster,
Yeah.
it's that. So there were these guys in Beastmaster that they had chained up, and they like injected them with stuff, and they turned into ravaging beastmen with like masks over their faces, and they ran around trying to kill the poor little weasels, because whatever they were. Not weasels, but whatever the little critters that the Beastmaster had. So like referring to an 80s movie that no one knows. Anyway, so they basically they start growing muscles really, really fast, and they grow them so fast that they actually have to cut their flesh for the muscles to grow and then regrow fresh flesh around it. So they're really horrific Slytherin monsters, and just awful. And they use them. Slytherin create them to be these like kind of horrific servants for them and fighters, and you know. In the long run, their CR isn't that high, but still, you don't want to face one if you're a low-level PC. They were CR 2 or 3 in the 3X books, but they still have this stupid strength and a lot of hit points. So, and they will kick the ass of a first or second level party completely, because you don't usually just say one.
Right.
So, and yes, Eocade runs into some Maulers, and it is not a good experience at all by any means. They are kind of terrifying. And certainly a concern for him, as he has issues around Maulers. And I love them as just a kind of a monstrous mutated thing that's already a monstrous mutated thing, but just on like literally on steroids. So, because like giantish growth, and they're really big and terrifying. So I love them.
Yay.
So, and you could totally like. I don't have a template for maybe I'll throw the Maulers in the book too. Another thing. I'm gonna talk about Titan Spawn.
Oh yeah.
Titan Spawn is considered a subheading for various creatures on Scarn. And Rangers specifically can choose Titan Spawn as a favored enemy. And freaking half the monsters on Scarn are Titan Spawn. So if you were playing a Ranger, why wouldn't you choose Titan Spawn as a favorite enemy? It's gonna cover like all these freaky things from the creature collection. So are redeemed Slytherin Titan Spawn? I would assume no.
Right.
They don't have that in the book. So certainly the base SLPG Slytherin are not Titan Spawn any more than an Orc would be Titan Spawn or a Ironbred would be Titan Spawn. If you play one of these broods, are you Titan Spawn? No, because you're playing redeemed. You know, you're not following. So, and this is that fuzzy definition of what is a Titan Spawn.
Yeah.
You know, and then they like the Titan Spawn is someone who has parentheses Titan Spawn on parentheses next to their descriptor.
Right.
Thanks guys, that's really helpful. So in for the purposes of I am a Ranger or some other class that gets a special advantage over a specific type, redeemed Slytherin should not be Titan Spawn, and make the argument that none of the unseeing Slytherin brood would be Titan Spawn. That if you were playing a Stricken, you may or may not be Titan Spawn depending on how you play it.
Right.
And I kind of would let the player decide. Are you or are you not a Titan Spawn? And I think it's more a fact of your beliefs as much as it is how you were created, because of muddiness around this.
Yeah. And because of that, I, as a DM, and take this how you will, I would do it that PCs are going to not have that, like PC Rangers are not going to have that favorite enemy against redeemed, but they would have it against unredeemed.
Yeah.
And vice versa, unredeemed rangers that are NPCs are going to have it against the PCs because
Yeah,
of that belief system difference. Like, if the
maybe.
PCs get this bonus against you, why can't you take something to get it against them? You know what I mean? So,
Or do you choose Slitherin
right.
as your preferred enemy,
Yeah.
which would include all Slytherin redeemed or unredeemed. So that's the alternative.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, because honestly, I think Titan Spawn as a favorite enemy is a little bit overpowered because it's like half of
It's just so broad.
yeah,
It's
it's
like
so
saying
broad.
anything created. Anything's not like a rock or a tree or dirt or
Yeah,
air.
I mean, you're looking for the words in the brackets, and you're not
Right.
going to see the words. But you can choose human and elf and dwarf as a favorite
Right.
enemy,
Right.
certainly. And plenty do who are humans. Like you can have humans have favorite enemies human because
Yeah.
there's a bunch of evil humans they're fighting and or whatever. That's totally a common thing, or maybe not a common thing, but a thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is the one place where it gets tricky. Is are you considered Titan Spawn if you play one of these broods?
Right.
I would say if you're playing a redeemed, which you would probably be playing unless you're in a wacky weird campaign where you're all monsters and the campaign is about bringing
Yeah.
back Mormo.
Yeah,
I would say no. I would say no, you're not a Titan Spawn, but talk to your GM.
Yeah.
Decide it, figure out how you want to run it. That's a totally gray area.
That's the great thing about these rules. You can break them. Yay!
Oh yeah. I mean, my thing is, try to follow the rules of 5th edition. Try to find balance.
Yeah.
I don't want a player. I mean, I don't have any issues against min-maxing all the time, but I want to try to min-max within the rules so that my min-maxed monster isn't so much more badass or whatever than another person who wants to min-max his min-max monster. If that makes sense. So, yeah, it's like everybody should be able to min-max, the way they want to.
Yeah. Totally.
With how much that's why I'm like all behind point buy. Because that creates a sense of balance.
Right.
And they've done a pretty good job at adjusting those rules to make it so that you point by whatever, and that you're not starting with a PC with an intelligence or strength of 18.
Yeah.
Maybe you can. Maybe there's some exceptions to that, but for the most part, just 16, 17, and that's your max. You're not going to be up there at level 1. So, whereas dice roll, you could be.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of that for that very reason. But
well, before we head out for the day, why don't you tell us all about where to find you on the interwebs?
On the interwebs, I am Sarah Stewart. My website is morelikethisindustries.com. And you can find me at More Like This 2 on the Twitters. On the Twitters. And I am the co-author of the novel Vigilant, Through Shadows and Dreams, Book 1. Book 2 is called Stalker. It is not out yet, but it's still being written. I don't know when it'll be done. I need to stop being distracted. Mostly by the day job, honestly. I did take a year off to write that, and I cannot take a year off to write the sequel.
Yeah.
I'm also found with Jeremy on Mondays, playing in Myths and Matchmakers, and
yeah, and that's on Twitch at Plastic Age Plays, which is Travis Legg's channel. He's the line developer for Scarred Lands, and he's got a bunch of fun stuff going on over there. So if you aren't subscribed to him as well, head over there and do so. Also follow Onyx Path. I can't think of their channel. I think it's the Onyx Path.
The Onyx Path.
It's their official one, and they have a bunch of Scarred Lands and Vampire and Werewolf and all of the stuff that they publish going on. They just recently, like 2 days ago, 3 days ago, yesterday, launched their latest Kickstarter, which is Legend Lore, the idea behind it is you are you, and you get teleported over to some fantasy realm called the Realm, and have to figure out how to become a hero over there. If you ever watched Dungeons and Dragons, the cartoon, It's that.
I don't want to play me though.
There's variations. So starting this Tuesday, June 9th, there's going to be a short campaign that's going to be Legend Lore set that I am actually a character on. Should be fun. It's on. I think that is going to be on the Onyx Path channel, and it essentially is going to be our various characters or new characters from different worlds. So Scarred Lands. Pugmire is where mine's coming from. Yay.
Oh, nice. You don't have to play you literally. You just have to play like a normal.
I mean, you can choose to do whichever you want.
Okay.
And so for this one, we're just playing our different characters that have been sucked into the realm. So that should be fun as well. But yeah, check that out. I will post the link to the Kickstarter in the show notes. Otherwise, I am Jeremy Hochhalter. You can find me on Twitter at WHPubs or on Facebook at WHPublications. You can go to WHPublications.com to find my publications. I have a list. And yeah, we're here every Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern. Or I also DM a Scarred Lands actual play Friday afternoons at 4:30, so in 8 minutes. But at yeah, it's entertaining. So come back and watch that.
That's only it's like a half an hour before in 8 minutes.
So 4:30 Eastern.
4:30, not 4 o'clock. Okay.
Yay.
I have no idea what time I'm running. Anyway, I should go. I'm sorry I ran so late.
But everybody have a good week. Stay safe, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.